The fraud and irregularities, it has emerged that Digital Vibes also failed to pay taxes. So this controversial tender led to the resignation, as Samkele was saying, of the former health minister. But now, over and above the acting DG, many more officials have been implicated in the report. Let's look at some of the legal ramifications. We're joined by legal analyst advocate Modidima Mannya and head of legal at the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, or OUTA, advocate Stephanie Fick. Let me start with you, Advocate Fick. The Digital Vibes saga, I guess, has become more and more serious as more and more information has been revealed. Were you at all surprised by the crimes laid out in this report?
Not surprised that there's, that there were crimes like that, but I think the first thing that goes through one's mind is that it's actually heartbreaking that, these revelations during a time where South Africans are struggling. We are going through a pandemic. We need our health department to look after, look after us. And to hear that this is the type of corruption that went on, while it's a very difficult time financially, it's also not going well. It is actually heartbreaking, but it's the next steps that's going to come.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But first, Advocate Mannya, what do you think? I mean, when it first broke, the Health Minister, Zweli Mkhize, had earned a lot of trust for his handling of COVID-19, the then Health Minister. It seemed like maybe there was some mistake, maybe he wasn't involved, as he said. He also claimed that he would take up what the report said legally. When it comes to Zweli Mkhize specifically, how damning is this report?
Well, good afternoon. There's a saying of a wolf in a sheepskin. And I think we may have been deluded to believe that he was handling the crisis very well. But maybe it's important to remind South Africans that workers in the health sector died, workers fought and said they wanted PPEs when there was not even a proper understanding of the virus. And as the minister responsible for the sector, it is disappointing, it is shocking, it is disgusting that we can have a situation where a person at this level can be involved to this extent. I mean, his protestations, and it doesn't matter whether he takes the matter to court, but his protestations have been proven to be incorrect. In fact, he has been found to have been dishonest with this nation. So, and in any event, it was his job to handle the pandemic. He was not doing anybody a favor. And I think that is the message that must be sent out to all who occupy public office. They are not doing the public a favor. And they must not think that we should be treated in this manner and accept lame excuses.
Yeah. Staying with you, I mean, we often hear this claim from the political principals that they were hands-off, that they didn't award contracts. I mean, he's been caught with his hand in the cookie jar, I guess, because there's a WhatsApp to the then DG saying, sort this out. But often we don't have that sort of evidence. And the suspicion is that there's a lot of pressure going on. Political politicians think they can do that with impunity. Do you agree?
Well, it happens all the time. I think those who have served in the public service will know how it works. The fact that there isn't a WhatsApp that implicates, like it implicates in the case of Dr. Mkhize, doesn't mean it happens. It happens all the time. In fact, one is constrained to say that the majority of diligent, honest, hardworking civil servants are subjected to this on a daily basis.
All right. Advocate Fick, you said that what is important now is what happens now. What would OUTA like to see in terms of action?
Well, let's start with the report. There was very recommendations, but what is important is that the criminal prosecution goes ahead. I think the SIU, did a lot of the heavy lifting, and that the NPA would really have a hard look at all the evidence and prosecute the people implicated. But I think we often get stuck with, people should be prosecuted, and once you're an accused, you have this right, you are innocent until proven guilty. That is only applicable in criminal law. There are various other processes that must also go ahead. And one of the disciplinary steps against the people to make sure that they are removed out of the positions, and we must make sure that they are not employed somewhere else in government. And then I think we need to have a hard look at ethics. We need ethical leaders that will take South Africa and South Africans by hand and lead us into the future, making sure that state capture doesn't happen, that we get rid of corrupt individuals, so that we can blossom as a nation and as a country. So it is, the SIU is cancelling the contract, so all the right things need to happen. But I think from the executive, from the political will, is to tackle the bull by its horns and show people that this type of act will not be tolerated, and there will be accountability.
Advocate Mannya, and presumably this is very important in the case of the acting DG, Dr. Anban Pillay. What's suggested in the report is that he flouted the law knowingly. It would be very difficult for him to claim a whoopsie, and there the SIU says criminal charges should be forthcoming.
Yes, look, I wouldn't be sympathetic to anybody at that level. Because this is actually what makes the civil service become rotten. Because if a person at that level can do this type of thing, then what do you expect those that are at the lower end to do? Because here's a minister who's been sending WhatsApps as they continue claiming we are not involved in procurement, but he was definitely involved. Definitely the DG was involved. And I hope that both of them face the full might of the law. I think if we can start with the big fish, we will be able to do this. But I think this also presents a major problem to the executive. In terms of this report, the cabinet had taken a decision that the communication on COVID will be centralized with the GCIS. And I'm curious to know, how did this particular minister, who is a member of the cabinet, defy the entire cabinet and the president with impunity and continue to claim that he's innocent? I mean, that is the first fault line, because the controls had simply collapsed by him going ahead on his own with his director general. But if you read the SIU report, you can see this was just an organized crime, and it must be treated as an organized crime.
Well, very quickly, what about the ANC? I mean, he's a member of the National Executive Committee, but there is this step-aside rule. He would have to be, however, charged first.
Yes, look, this situation, of course, presents contradictions, if I may say quickly. On the one hand, there is some movement, and I think the president must be commended. At least we can now see reports coming out in public. We can see some senior people being taken to task. For the ANC, it presents a major moral challenge, because the more and more senior leaders of the ANC implicated in this thing. And again, the question is, what do we expect to see happen on the ground? And I think we need the same type of zeal that we are seeing coming, at least from the government side, small as it is and slow as it is, from the side of the ANC, to clean up this mess. This nation needs and deserves better.
Advocate Fick, let me end with you. Talking about the presidency, the FF Plus says that the president delaying the release of the report was unacceptable. He said along the way that there were implicated parties who needed a chance to respond. Was that fair enough?
Someone else also asked the question. I think it's very unfair to just subjectively decide that the president took long. I have to think that there's not just the one report on his table. There's a lot of problems that he needs to take care of. So whether he did that intentionally, I don't know. I think that would be unfair just to accept that was done intentionally. I say again that we weren't there. We will never know. But it is important to see what the president is going to do now. I want to agree that, do we want to do something about corruption in this country? Do we want to eradicate corruption, unethical leadership, unethical behavior? Then what is going to happen with executives that makes themselves guilty of this type of conduct? Not necessarily criminal offences. Yes, criminal offences as well. But it's more about the conduct and the moral fibre. And what message is the president going to send next? What is he going to tell South Africa?
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, legal analyst, advocate Modidima Mannya, and head of legal at the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA, advocate Stephanie Fick.